Hey there, amazing parents. Welcome back to the channel. You know, one of the most incredible things about raising young children is watching their minds just blossom. Remember when they were tiny babies, everything was new, their eyes wide with wonder at the simplest things, the rustle of leaves, a beam of sunlight, your face smiling down at them? And then, as they grow into toddlers and preschoolers, that wonder transforms into this incredible engine of exploration. They touch everything, they ask a million questions, they experiment in ways that sometimes make us laugh, and sometimes make us want to pull our hair out just a little bit. Have you ever stopped to think about that incredible, innate drive they have? That burning curiosity? It's the engine of learning, isn't it? It's what pushes them to figure out how the world works, to solve problems, to become capable, thinking individuals. But here's something I've been thinking about lately, and maybe you have too. Have you noticed, maybe, a subtle shift? Perhaps that relentless questioning has quieted down a bit sooner than you expected. Or maybe your little explorer seems a bit less adventurous, sticking to the familiar, less likely to try something new unless prompted. It's easy to chalk it up to just growing up, finding their routines. But what if, and I say this gently, because we're all doing our absolute best, what if some of our own habits, our own well-intentioned actions, are accidentally dampening that beautiful spark? What if we're unintentionally putting roadblocks in the path of their natural curiosity? It's a tough question to ask ourselves, I know. Nobody wants to stifle their child's desire to learn. We spend so much energy trying to teach them things, provide opportunities, keep them safe. Yet, sometimes, in the hustle and bustle of daily life and our efforts to manage everything, we might be sending signals we don't even realize. Signals that say, don't explore too much, don't ask so many questions, stick to the script. Today, I want to dive into this with you. We're going to talk about 4 common, often unintentional, mistakes that parents, even the most loving and dedicated ones, like you, might be making that could be subtly hindering that incredible curiosity in our young children. And more importantly, we'll explore simple, practical shifts we can make to nurture it instead. Because fostering that curious spirit isn't just about raising kids who do well in school, it's about raising kids who are engaged with the world, who are resilient problem solvers, who find joy in discovery throughout their lives. It's fundamental. We'll look at how our daily routines, our responses to their questions, even our own anxieties about mess and mistakes, can play a role. Think of this as a supportive chat, a chance to reflect and maybe find 1 or 2 small tweaks that could make a big difference for your little one's blossoming mind. So, let's start by thinking about something that governs so much of our modern family life, our schedules. Think about a typical week for your child. Maybe there's preschool or daycare, then swimming lessons on Tuesday, music class on Wednesday, a playdate scheduled for Thursday, maybe soccer practice or ballet on Saturday morning. We fill their days with enriching activities, wanting to give them every advantage, every opportunity to learn and socialize. And these activities can be wonderful, truly. But here's the potential pitfall, the first way we might accidentally be getting in the way of curiosity. Mistake 1, overscheduling and the disappearance of true free play. When every hour is accounted for, when transitions are rushed, come on, put your shoes on, we're going to be late for gymnastics. Where is the space for spontaneous wonder? Curiosity doesn't operate on a timetable. It sparks when a child has the time to get lost in thought while watching an ant carry a crumb across the sidewalk. It ignites when they have a pile of blocks and an uninterrupted hour to just build, experiment, knock it down, and start again, without any adult agenda or predetermined outcome. It flourishes in boredom, believe it or not. That moment when a child sighs, "I'm bored," isn't necessarily a cue for us to immediately jump in with a structured activity. It's often the fertile ground from which their own ideas, their own explorations, can spring forth. They need that mental downtime, that unstructured space, to let their minds wander, to follow a whim, to investigate something that catches their interest, not just what's on the family calendar. Think about it. When was the last time your child had a significant chunk of time, say, an hour or more, with absolutely nothing planned? No screens, no lessons, no scheduled playdates, just time. Time to potter around the garden, time to mess about with cardboard boxes and blankets in the living room, time to simply lie on their back and watch the clouds. It sounds simple, almost luxurious in our busy lives, but this unstructured time is as vital for their curious minds as nutritious food is for their growing bodies. When we constantly direct their attention, shuttle them from one activity to the next, we inadvertently teach them that learning and exploration only happen in designated settings or when led by an adult. We might be subtly communicating that their own internally driven explorations aren't as valuable. They don't get the chance to practice initiating their own activities, solving the problem of boredom, or diving deep into a spontaneous interest simply because they lack the time and mental space to do so. This isn't about ditching all activities, of course, but about finding a better balance. It's about consciously carving out and protecting pockets of unscheduled time, recognizing that doing nothing is actually doing something incredibly important for their developing brains. It's about resisting the urge to fill every silence, every gap, and trusting that their innate curiosity will lead them somewhere interesting, if only given the chance. This idea of giving them space naturally leads us into another area where our best intentions might sometimes backfire. It's not just about the time we give them, but also about how we interact with them during their moments of exploration and problem solving. So, we've just talked about the importance of carving out that unstructured time, that breathing room for curiosity to emerge. But let's zoom in a bit. Picture this: your child is playing. Maybe they're trying to fit a shape into a sorter, or attempting to build a tall tower that keeps tumbling down, or maybe they're working on a simple puzzle. They're getting a little frustrated. They sigh, maybe they whine a little, they look towards you with those big, imploring eyes. What's our first instinct as loving parents? Often, it's to jump right in and help, right? We want to ease their frustration, show them the right way, fix the problem for them. Here, honey, this piece goes here. Look, if you put the big blocks on the bottom, it won't fall over. We do it out of love, out of a desire to be helpful and supportive. But this brings us to the second potential mistake. Mistake 2, jumping in with answers and solutions too quickly. While our intention is purely helpful, constantly swooping in to solve the puzzle, answer the question definitively, or fix the leaning tower can inadvertently send a message we don't intend. It can subtly communicate, you're not capable of figuring this out on your own, or there's one right way to do this, and I have it. It can rob them of that incredible feeling of accomplishment, that little jolt of dopamine that comes from struggling with something and finally figuring it out for themselves. That struggle, that process of trial and error, is where so much learning happens. It builds resilience, problem-solving skills, and confidence in their own abilities. Curiosity thrives not just on finding answers, but on the process of seeking them. When we short-circuit that process, we might be making things easier in the moment, but we could be hindering the development of their persistence and their trust in their own thinking. Imagine your child asks, "Why is the sky blue?" A common question. Our instinct might be to give a simplified scientific answer, or maybe just say, "It just is." But what if, instead of immediately providing the answer, we paused? What if we turned it back gently? That's a great question. Why do you think the sky is blue? What color is it sometimes? What do you see up there? This doesn't mean we never give answers, but it means we first create space for their thinking, their hypotheses, their observations. Maybe they'll say something scientifically inaccurate, like because blue paint spilled up there. That's okay. The goal isn't immediate factual correctness, it's encouraging the process of wondering, observing, and theorizing. You can then explore the answer together, perhaps looking it up in a simple book or online later, turning it into a shared discovery rather than a transaction where you simply hand over the information. Similarly, with the tumbling block tower, instead of fixing it, we could try being a supportive observer. We could offer encouragement, "Wow, you are working so hard on that tower." We could ask guiding questions, "It keeps falling down. What do you think might make it steadier?" Or we could simply provide quiet presence, showing confidence in their ability to work through it. This might mean tolerating a little frustration, theirs and maybe even our own desire to just make it work. But allowing them that space to experiment, to fail, and to try again builds something far more valuable than a perfect block tower. It builds a curious and persistent mind. It teaches them that challenges are opportunities to learn, not signals to give up or wait for rescue. This approach connects directly to how we handle their endless stream of questions, especially that classic, sometimes exhausting, phase of why. Why? Why? This leads us naturally to our third potential pitfall. Mistake number 3, discouraging questions, especially the whys. Oh, the why phase. If you're in it, or remember it well, you know it can test the patience of a saint. Why do I have to eat my broccoli? Why is that dog barking? Why is the moon following us? Why? 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 It can feel relentless, especially when we're tired, busy, or simply don't know the answer ourselves. It's tempting, in those moments, to shut it down. To say, because I said so, or just stop asking so many questions, or that's just the way it is, or even just to sigh heavily and change the subject. We might do it because we're genuinely worn out, or perhaps because the questions feel challenging or disruptive. But think about what a why question really is. It's a direct expression of curiosity. It's the sound of a little mind actively trying to make sense of the vast, complex world around it. They are seeking connections, understanding cause and effect, trying to build their mental map of how things work. When we shut down those whys, even unintentionally through our tone or dismissive answers, we risk sending a powerful message: your questions are annoying, it's not okay to wonder, or learning stops here. Over time, if questions are consistently met with dismissal or irritation, a child might learn to simply stop asking. They might internalize the idea that curiosity is unwelcome, that seeking understanding is bothersome. And that's the opposite of what we want, isn't it? So, how can we handle the why barrage in a way that nurtures curiosity instead of squashing it? Firstly, acknowledge the question, even if you don't have an immediate answer. That's a really interesting question, validates their thinking. Secondly, embrace the I don't know. It's perfectly okay, and actually beneficial, for kids to see that adults don't have all the answers. It models intellectual humility. You can follow it up with, let's find out together. This turns their question into a shared mission, an adventure in learning. Grab a book, look it up online, with guidance, or simply wonder aloud together. Why is the moon following us? It does look like that, doesn't it? What do you think is happening? Again, like with providing quick solutions, it's about fostering the process of inquiry. Sometimes, the best response is simply to validate their observation and share in the wonder. Yeah, isn't that funny how it seems to follow us? The world is full of amazing things. You don't always need a scientific lecture. Sometimes, just sharing the moment of curiosity is enough to keep that spark alive. It requires patience, absolutely. It requires us sometimes to put aside our own agenda for a moment. But viewing those whys not as interruptions, but as invitations to explore, connect, and learn alongside our children, can transform how we respond, and in turn, nurture their innate desire to understand. We're building a picture here, aren't we? Giving them time, letting them struggle productively, welcoming their questions, but there's one more common area, often tied to our own anxieties, where we might be inadvertently putting the brakes on their exploration. We've covered some significant ground, thinking about the importance of unstructured time, resisting the urge to jump in with answers too quickly, and learning to welcome that endless stream of questions as the fuel of curiosity. These shifts are powerful. But there's another, perhaps more visceral, hurdle that many of us face, one that's tied deeply to our desire for order, safety, and perhaps even avoiding judgment. This brings us to our fourth potential mistake. Mistake 4, having an overly strong fear of mess, mistakes, and imperfection. Let's be honest, young children exploring the world can be messy. Really messy. Think finger painting that somehow ends up on the elbows and forehead. Think concoctions made of mud, leaves, and water in the backyard. Think building projects with cushions and blankets that take over the entire living room. Think experiments mixing different, safe, of course, kitchen ingredients just to see what happens. Our instinct? Often, it's to control the chaos. Only use a tiny bit of paint. Don't make such a mess. Let's clean this up right away. No, that's not how you're supposed to play with that toy. We might limit certain activities altogether because the cleanup feels too daunting, or we might hover, constantly correcting their technique or redirecting them towards a tidier, more correct way of doing things. Similarly, we often have an underlying desire for our children to get things right. We might correct their drawing. The sun isn't purple, honey, it's yellow. We might fix their block tower because it looks wonky. We might overemphasize the final product rather than the process of creation or exploration. When a child makes a mistake, spills the juice, puts their shoes on the wrong feet, misunderstands an instruction, our reaction can sometimes focus heavily on the error itself. Now, of course, we need boundaries. We need safety. We need our homes to be functional. Nobody is suggesting letting chaos reign completely unchecked. But when our fear of mess or mistakes becomes the dominant force guiding our interactions during playtime and exploration, we risk sending some unintended messages. We might be teaching them that exploration is risky or frowned upon if it isn't neat and tidy. We might be communicating that making mistakes is bad, something to be avoided at all costs, rather than a natural and essential part of learning. We might be subtly suggesting that the process, the experimenting, the trying, the failing, the trying again, isn't as valuable as a perfect, clean outcome. This can stifle the very essence of curiosity, which often involves venturing into the unknown, trying things that might not work, and yes, sometimes making a bit of a mess along the way. It can lead to children who are hesitant to try new things for fear of doing it wrong or getting messy, children who become overly focused on perfection rather than exploration. So, how do we navigate this? It's about finding a balance and shifting our mindset. Can we designate specific mess-friendly zones or times? Maybe an old tablecloth for painting, or accepting that the backyard is a place where mud pies are okay. Can we dress them in old clothes for potentially messy activities so we worry less? Can we focus our praise on their effort and engagement rather than just the end result? Wow, you used so many different colors in your painting, or you worked really hard figuring out how to make that stand up, instead of just "that's a beautiful picture." When mistakes happen, can we react with patience and see them as learning opportunities? Oops, the juice spilled. That happens sometimes. Let's get a cloth and figure out how to clean it up together. This models problem solving and resilience instead of shame or anxiety around errors. It's about consciously choosing to value the process of exploration, experimentation, and learning, mess, mistakes, and all, over perfect tidiness or immediate correctness. It requires us to manage our own discomfort with chaos and imperfection, recognizing that a little bit of managed mess can be the fertile ground for a whole lot of curiosity and learning. Thinking about these 4 areas, the need for unstructured time, letting them struggle productively, welcoming their questions, and embracing a degree of mess and imperfection, really highlights how our everyday parenting choices, often made with the best intentions, can shape our children's relationship with learning and discovery. It's not about suddenly becoming permissive or abandoning structure altogether. It's about awareness. It's about recognizing those moments where we might be inadvertently closing doors that we actually want to keep wide open for our children's curious minds. Remember that incredible spark we talked about at the beginning? That innate drive to explore, question, and understand? It's still there in your child. Our role isn't necessarily to create curiosity, but to protect it, nurture it, and provide the right conditions for it to flourish. Sometimes that means scheduling less, not more. Sometimes it means stepping back when our instinct is to step in. Sometimes it means taking a deep breath and welcoming the 10th why of the hour. And sometimes, yes, it means embracing the mud pies and the purple suns. It's about modeling curiosity ourselves, too. Let them see you wonder about things. I wonder why those birds always fly together like that. Share your own interests and moments of discovery. Visit new places together, even just a different park or a walk down an unfamiliar street. Provide open-ended toys and materials, blocks, art supplies, cardboard boxes, natural items, things that can be used in countless ways, rather than toys with only one specific function. Celebrate their effort, their questions, their unique ways of seeing the world. Parenting is such a journey, isn't it? There's no perfect manual, and we're all learning as we go. Please don't watch this and feel burdened by guilt or a sense of having done things wrong. That's absolutely not the intention. The goal here is empowerment. It's about recognizing the immense power we have, through small, consistent shifts in our approach, to fan the flames of our children's natural curiosity. Every time you pause before answering, every time you validate a question, every time you allow for a little messy exploration, you're sending a powerful message. Your curiosity is valued. Your ideas matter. Keep exploring. Keep learning. Remember, small changes really can make a big difference over time. Be kind to yourself on this journey. Choose one small thing that resonated with you today and perhaps try focusing on that for a little while. Celebrate the small victories, the moment your child figures something out on their own, the shared wonder over a simple discovery. I would genuinely love to hear from you in the comments below. What are your biggest challenges when it comes to nurturing curiosity? Have you noticed any of these patterns in your own parenting? Or do you have wonderful tips and strategies that have worked for your family? Sharing our experiences helps us all learn and grow together as parents. If you found this conversation helpful or thought-provoking, please give this video a thumbs up. It really helps support the channel. And if you haven't already, consider subscribing and hitting that notification bell so you don't miss our future chats about raising thoughtful, curious, and happy kids. Thank you so much for spending this time with me today. Remember, your child's curiosity is one of their greatest gifts. Keep nurturing that spark. Keep wondering alongside them. You're doing an amazing job.